friends. Welcome to Aromatic Chat, the podcast that introduces you to registered, clinical, and certified aromatherapists around the world. Tune in every other week to hear from aromatherapists and to learn about their aromatic journeys and how they use essential oils in their lives and their businesses. I created this podcast so that you, my listener, can hear from, find, and connect with the aromatherapist that meets your holistic wellness needs. Aromatic Chat is produced by Balm Coaching. I'm your host, Melissa. I'm a holistic life coach and a registered aromatherapist. Hey friend, you are going to be so glad you tuned into the podcast today. Welcome to episode number 45, Aromatic Chat with Amy Lechner. If you have ever, and I mean ever in your life, thought to yourself these words, I am just, and then fill in the blank with words like a mom, a hairdresser, a secretary, you are in for a treat. Amy has blended together three amazing modalities to create what she calls hair-apy. She's a hairstylist, a naturopath, and an aromatherapist weaving together wellness in her salon in Pennsylvania. I'm so glad you're here, and I know that you will want to hear her story. So let's get started.
Hello.
Hey, Amy.
I was thinking about some of your posts about joy, and I feel like everything in life is just kind of like you have some ups, you have some downs, but ultimately it's just kind of riding the wave and using your resources.
Exactly. And what do we do with the downs?
Yeah.
Matters
exactly.
so much.
I totally agree. I think your one post, I think you had put about just some of the things that you've been through. And sometimes I feel like people see you where you are now. You might be in a good place and they're like, oh, she's got life so good. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't know what's under the soil.
I just had that conversation yesterday with my friend. She's always been independent. She's very strong. And she's like, people just always reach out to me and they want me to fix their problems. And I'm like, I got problems too.
Right.
I said, but they don't see it. All they see is the strength. They don't understand that you're struggling just as much as they are. But what do you do with your struggle?
One day I woke up and I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about my gifts. I'm going to talk about what I have to be grateful for. I'm going to talk about something good because I'm not advertising for the devil anymore.
Well, my husband and I are watching Survivor. We're like watching Survivor season 16. I mean, so like we're not trendy. Okay.
Right.
But he goes, what is it about this show that people love? Because the longevity of the show, it can't be matched. Oh, yeah. And I said, well, misery loves company. You know, if I watch this show and those people are backbiting and struggling and fighting and they still make it, then I can too. I said, there's something weird about it, you know, where we want to see how badly people are doing because then it makes us feel better.
Exactly.
Well, if Amy can survive that, then surely
and as a side note, sometimes Mark and I randomly pick out a season of Survivor to watch when there's nothing else.
I told my husband, though, I want to see a season where instead of Survivor, they're showing us the behind the scenes. Exactly. I want to see the team that comes up with all of these challenges. I want to see the team that builds them. Oh my gosh.
I know. Like, where do they come up with that stuff?
Oh my word. Yeah. That's what I want to see. So how are you? How are things? I mean, did you recover from the conference? And
I did. It was really, really good. I thought they did an amazing job at integrating. I feel like all of us can agree, like wherever you stand with the whole pandemic and COVID, we can all agree that it has redirected every one of our lives in some way, shape, or form. And it's kind of like what we started the conversation, you know, it's all in how you look at it. I feel like the hardest part is, I mean, it's any of the conferences when they have like two speakers in the same time slot and you have to pick one. It's like, no, I can't. I want both. I just barely have enough time to get done all of the extra classes that I seem to have an addiction to.
I understand this.
I just don't know where I would fit one more thing. And I'm just going to say that that's the fullness of my life. Like, it's not a complaint.
Yeah. You know, no, I get it.
I mean, I start my day out with, you know, just please let me just be a blessing to whomever really just needs to know you or feel you or whatever. And so yesterday my first client, it was so chaotic. And I was like, I feel like today's going to be a Yahtzee cup day. Like you just put the dice in, roll it, and whatever comes out, we're going to go with it. And so my first client brought me this mug. It had this beautiful thing. Like I prayed for you today. And it was like this little thing. And I was like, oh, I'm going to set that on my station. I feel like somebody's going to need to see that. My next client comes in. I am such a mess. I can't stop shaking. And I'm like, would you like to smell some oils? And she was like, will it help? I'm like, yes. I said, I'll give you one now and we'll wait a little bit. I put them on a scent strip and I was like, I'll give you one in like 20 minutes because she was going to be there for a while. So when she was done, she was like, I feel a little bit better. I was like, thank you, God. Then my next client comes in and she has all of these health things going on and just a lot. And, healthcare is sometimes so frustrating. And I said, do you want to smell some oil? She's like, nope, I don't. I said, okay. And she said, well, maybe.
If you're going to push, you're going to be pushy, Amy.
Right. So I just put like, it says diluted blend because like in the salon, there's way too many smells to begin with.
Yes.
So I just put it on a scent strip. I walk away. And so when we were done, we were just about done. And I made some comment and she threw her head back and laughed. And she said, I just can't remember when I laughed like that. Thank you so much. And so I felt like, thank you, God, because that was my request. So, and then the rest of the day seemed to go okay. So I feel like we just needed to have a little TLC.
Yeah. That's good. When things are really hard, I think the best thing to do is look outward and focus on other people and helping them. And when you're focused on helping other people, it just, I don't know, it just changes everything.
I agree. And I think that I love, like you put that in the notes, and I really love that because it was such a good reminder because I feel like because of the role that I have as far as my profession, I do that professionally. But then sometimes when I'm at home, then the opportunity is slightly less. So it was good for you to put that in there. It was a nice reminder.
I'm so glad to get to talk with you again because
I know
we did the special AIA episode together.
It was very, very lovely.
Yeah, it's so great to have you on for a full length episode, just focused on you and what you're doing in the aromatic world.
Thank you so much for asking me.
So I always love to start with just the story, like how in the world did you end up doing aromatherapy? Because, and this seems to be the thing that I keep saying in all of my interviews, I don't know of any people in our age group who thought to themselves when they were little girls or boys, I'm going to grow up and be an aromatherapist someday.
I don't even think it was a thing. When I was little, I always loved plants and nature. Like it was always so fascinating to me. So as I got older, I just have always just enjoyed working with plants and stuff, just kind of as a hobby. I was in school I am a traditional naturopath. So I was doing my training for naturopath. And one of my friends said, hey, come to this lady speaking at this Shavers Creek Park. She's talking about essential oils. And I was like, oh, okay. I like plants. I like oils. I'm game. And it happened to be Liz Folcher who was speaking. So it was like about 20 years ago. And I mean, I would go to the library before Google was even a thing and bring home a book and read. And so I had read a few books, but I came home, started reading right around that time. My son, and he was an infant, was diagnosed with asthma. So all of my very well-meaning friends were like, oh, you need some respiratory oils. Well, we all think, like all of the oils that you can't use on infants and with asthma. And so I think I just must have read it somewhere or something. And I was like, oh, it just gave me a shovel really to start digging with. And so then Liz offered this 40-hour introduction to aromatherapy class. I took it and I was hook, line, and sinker. I was in. It's just been every step of the way. It's just been like one more level of curiosity. And then I just start digging more. And after that, I finished my naturopath stuff. And then I went to, I didn't go, but I did online from ACHS. So I did my certificate of aromatherapy with a chemistry intensive. I have been learning ever since. full
And
time.
that's a common thread among aromatherapists, though, is the continual learning, the
Yeah.
continuing education, because it's changing
Mhm.
so much all the time. I mean, the chemistry doesn't change. Science is science, but the applications and how we view them and how we use them and how we blend them, it's changing all the time. We have to stay on top of our education.
Absolutely. And I think that, just from the very first few books that I have and, looking back through those, and, there would be recipes and there would be the botanical name and things like that, but there was chemistry in it, but there wasn't the emphasis. And then of course, I feel like the pendulum swung so far the other side that like the whole art side of aromatherapy started to be like, but wait, they're oils and they smell beautiful and they make you feel things. Like the chemistry is so valuable. Yes, indeed it is. But let's not forget we're working with so I feel like now it's starting to come kind of back into just balance.
Yeah.
Like that's my perspective of it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then the other thing I was thinking that changes sometimes is the botanical name, since you brought that
Yes.
up.
Yes.
The botanical names change. And if we're not continually educating, we might be talking about a plant. I mean, the plant is still the plant, but the botanical name has changed and you're not even going to be able to identify it anymore.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just took a hydrosol class with Liz, and there was one of the plant. I don't even remember what it is now. I would have to go back and look at my notes, but one of the plants, the botanical name had changed. And I was like, well, now why'd they go and do that? And I think because like as aromatherapists, and it's kind of what you said, like looking back to when we were younger, we didn't talk about oils. I don't even know if they really even exist. I'm sure they existed, but it wasn't like now where it's like you see it so commonly used and almost to some degree abused in certain situations. And I think, wow, it's just so crazy.
It is crazy. The other thing I think about is like how we've come for full circle. All medicine started in the plant realm, and then we kind of moved away from it, really relying heavily on pharmaceuticals and medical. And now people are coming back to the natural remedies and trying to take care of themselves at home before the need to go to a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I love how it's come full circle.
I completely agree. And just seeing how that, like in my own kids' lives, like how that's changed over their time. They're adults now. And I can see, when they were like when my son was an infant, my daughter was 10, and I was just discovering it. It was hard to resource a lot of the stuff that now, because of the internet, because of the availability, I could order anything and have it to my home in like 3 days.
Not so much here on Guam,
Yes, I do feel like Guam might be a few days behind.
It takes a little bit longer to get things, but that's okay. It's so funny though, because, Guam is situated very close to Australia, but the companies that they use to ship are not the same companies that we use in the US. So it's like, it takes just as long for me to get something from Australia as it does for me to get something from the US.
Oh, wow.
It's really funny.
Oh, wow.
From the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's a geographical anomaly. We're just 2 weeks from everywhere.
That's kind of not funny, but it is. I mean, as long as you know that going into it, you just order accordingly.
Yes, exactly. And I order and I just sit here and wait. But I don't wait like, oh my gosh, am I going to get it? I just, it'll show up when it gets here.
Right. So the next time I check for my package, I'm just going to hear your little voice saying, we're 2 weeks
from everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like I ordered a couple of different essential oils and resins recently. And I keep getting messages like, have you gotten your package yet? Have you gotten your package yet? Because it said it would be there in 3 days. And I'm like, no, that's 3 days in the US,
Right. Yeah.
10 to 14.
Yeah. Wow. When you get those resins, they're going to smell so good.
Okay. So back to you. So, you're not an aromatherapist only. You did mention you're also a trained naturopath. Mm-hmm. And I know you do have another modality as well. And I'm going to call it a modality because the women who do what you do don't just do the thing that we go to you for.
Yes, that is so true. I am a hairstylist. I own a salon. I've done for a long time. over 30 years. Along the way, I've just been able, because what you said, like, yes, I do people's hair, but I call it hair-apy because it goes way beyond,
Yes, it does.
way beyond doing hair. And so there's a lot of times, and I've had people ask me like, why don't you do like more wellness? And I have found, like, when I started like finishing up with school and started doing all of my naturopath and aromatherapy stuff, I'd have people that will come to me for their wellness sessions, and they would be some of my hair clients. And inevitably, 9 times out of 10, if they had $50 or $100 to spend, they'd cancel their wellness appointment and get their hair done. I was like, hold on a minute. Because, like, don't we want to be well? And then I was like, but that's all of me. So, I just quit trying to fight it all. And I was like, you know what? When I'm standing behind the chair, they're talking through a screen, through a filter in the mirror. It's super relaxed. Like, I'm playing with their hair. They feel good. I get all kinds of information. If we're sitting face to face, it's different. It's different for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so blessed to have been able to just take all of the things that I love and integrate them into this experience where, like I said to you, like somebody's having a bad day. Would you like to smell some essential oils? I know they work. I don't really have to say anything because I just hand them the strip, walk away, and they do their job.
Right. Well, and then the other thing that people don't realize is our hair tells us a lot about our health.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you have a very unique skill set with your hair-apy and your
Yes.
ND and your aromatherapy, because you're touching their hair and you can feel the mineral imbalances and the oil imbalances and all of the things that our hair tells us.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so funny because hormonally our hair changes, and I've been blessed to do people's hair like through a couple pregnancies, like through other hormonal changes. And it is so interesting to me. Like, I've had people who have natural curly hair to get pregnant, their hair goes straight. I had this one girl who, she was pregnant, didn't know she was pregnant, wasn't even on her radar, but she had 2 other kids. And I was highlighting her hair and I said, if I didn't know better, I would say you're pregnant. And she was like, oh, haha. 2 days later, she called me. I called my mom and said, I have to call Amy. She's the only person that knew before I knew. And I said, there's no scientific studies to support that, but 30 years behind the chair doing the same people for probably 25 of those there's a lot that I can see in your hair, your scalp, everything. You're right.
So you're like the hair doctor.
Yes. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. And I try to not, cross any, like, I mean, if somebody asks, I'll say something, or if I feel like it's really something that needs to be said, I'll find a gentle way to say it. But sometimes I just observe and wait for the right opportunity.
Which is better, because you can't force anyone to change or be better or want to be well. They have to want that.
I mean, I feel like any one of us who has insight or information, if you just kind of blurt it out all the time, then people, I feel like, kind of tend to feel like you're judging them. Whereas if you let them bring it up, then it makes them feel more in control of the conversation. And
absolutely. So we know you're an aromatherapist, an ND, a hair-apy practitioner. And I'm just curious. So if you were to take all of those things into consideration and just kind of look at just an overall picture, what is the most common problem that people come to you for?
Oh, hands down, stress. Stress is the driver of most of the buses. Like, if your hair is falling out, I'll ask a few questions, especially now. It seems like that's just, I mean, we're all kind of just got a lot going on, and I feel like life's moving at warp speed. The result of stress. So anxiousness, feeling overwhelmed, feeling sadness. Of all of the modalities, that's probably the most common thread through them all.
Yeah. And even in your hair-apy practice, like you said, people come in and go, oh my gosh, because for generations now, the salon chair or the barbershop chair was the therapy couch.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
try to be pretty honorable of that. Like if they come in and they need to be quiet, I try to be mindful of that. I mean, the environment of the salon can be noisy, but I just try, like when I'm shampooing their hair, sometimes they just close their eyes. So I just let them be in that moment or try to be extremely mindful of that because it is like that retreat sometimes.
Well, as someone who does get their hair done, I just say thank you for that. So
You're welcome.
important, so important. And
You're
not every
welcome.
stylist is able to do that. I don't know if people
It's
thank you for that, but I'm thanking you for all of
well,
us.
well, thank you. I do have some people that thank me on occasion.
Good. Because it is
Yeah.
important. It is important to be able to read that person. And I know that's not something they teach in cosmetology
Mhm.
school. So
When I got out of high school, I didn't go to college because I did hair. And so in your 20s, when you're like super worried about what everybody else thinks about you, that really bothered me. And so I kind of carried this, I'll say like this undercurrent of lack of self-worth because I didn't go to college. Like in my mind, that was where it was at. So I heard this psychologist. He was a psychologist who closed up his shop to study the salon industry because he was like, I have told patients to do this, that, or the other thing. They come in and say, but my hairstylist told me to do this. And so I want to find out about you. So he became a motivational speaker for Matrix. So when I worked for Pennies, we would do these leadership development training things. And when I heard him speak, it changed everything about how I saw myself as a hairstylist because he said, you are not a medical professional and you're licensed to touch. And that breaks down all barriers. And then he went through, like your work is in baby's first haircut, the first day of school, and I'm crying, but it changed every single thing about how I viewed what I did.
yes,
And
hairstylists are there for all of the big moments,
yeah,
all of the big moments,
yeah. And I
all of
spent
them.
like, I probably spent easily 5 to 8 years looking at it's like kind of what our little casual prior conversation was about like what are you looking at, what are you focusing on, because I was focusing on what I didn't have and what I didn't do. As soon as somebody shined their little flashlight on the other side of the coin, everything changed. And that was kind of also right around the time I was doing a lot of my natural health stuff. So it was kind of all just coming full like into this big ball of me now.
That's beautiful. I love how you've meshed it all together. You have a very unique niche. I'm sure
Thank you.
people just see, oh, it's Amy's hair salon. I'm going to go get my hair done. Not realizing you've got all this other stuff making the hair-apy happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
My
Thank you.
mom, my mom was a stylist and my sister was a stylist, and it is such an underappreciated,
Mm-hmm.
very underappreciated industry in the United
Mm-hmm.
States. I don't know about the rest
Yes,
of the world, but in the United States, I feel like stylists are treated worse than servers.
that's really changing. There was probably a decade where that was the case, but it's really starting to change a lot. Or I see that changing, and maybe it's, maybe some of it's just my own level of awareness changing, but yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I love how you've meshed it all together. And I just love you being an example. Hopefully, our conversation here will help other stylists realize they're
Absolutely.
valuable and they are valued.
All of us are so devoid of touch. If we have someone who like we live with as a spouse or a significant other, we have that touch, but it's a touch with a level of commitment. My policy is what happens in my chair stays in my chair. So you can tell me anything you want. And I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Rub your back a little bit, change the subject, no commitment. You feel a little bit better, and on we go. We're just going to relax now.
I did see on your website that you're also Reiki trained.
Yes.
How does the energy come into play in your salon?
Well, it's interesting because I've really kind of gone back and forth with that. I want to give all glory to God for what I have in my gift of touch. I will say that how that factors in is if you're sitting there and you're really upset and I don't know what to do, I pray to God And then whatever happens from that is a result of all of that. And so, it's kind of funny how I've tried to figure out how it fits in my life.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I would pray about it. I realized that there is a gift in my hands that when I touch people, it's not words and it's not anything that any worldly thing that I obtained. It is a gift from God. And if I don't use it, I am not bringing glory to him. And so that's how it works.
Love that. That's beautiful. Because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
when I'm
Yeah.
working
And
with
I think
clients.
that in our circles, sometimes it's kind of, I don't want to say hard because it's not hard, but I just feel like sometimes people are like, oh, okay.
Yes.
But that's okay. That's okay.
I had people at the last live conference pull me aside and like whisper, like, hush, hush, like, I don't want anybody else to hear this. Thank you for your blog post. I really appreciated it, because
Yeah.
I wrote a blog post about a Bible study we had done and how God had impressed upon me to make these blends for everybody in the study. Oh, but we're not going to stop there. Tell them what I see in them. Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a prophet, but you're going to do this. Okay. Okay. And then I had people, they're like, thank you for that blog post. Like,
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
hush hush, because it's,
Yes.
as believers, we're on the outside of the aromatherapy
Yes.
community.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had to just kind of take a little, like, see where I am in all of that and who I am and who God's saying I am. Like, I just, so anyways, that's
I love
the
that.
long answer.
No, I love it. I love it. And we're on the same page. So you're
Yeah.
in good company. I love that. What is one story about a client that just has you falling in love with essential oils again and again every time you think about it?
This one moment, like when I think about it, it makes me want to cry because it was so profoundly moving. So this man who has some learning disability was really, really, really struggling emotionally. A family member had reached out to me and I said, I'll talk to him. He was having trouble getting into like a mental health therapist. I said, it's not my qualification, but I'd be more than happy to just meet with him. He was so nervous and it was hard for him to really, like, he's a processor mentally. So it was hard for him to kind of just articulate what he was feeling. And it was just really deep for him. So we kind of just did a few things. And I explained to him that I would put essential oils on a scent strip. And as I do that and introduce the oil, I just talk to them just casually. And I just usually say, tell me if you like it on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is I hate it, 5 is I love it. And if you don't like it, we just throw it away and do something else. So we had gone through a few of these and you could really just see him starting to digest. He knew exactly what he didn't like. And so when we got to a couple that he liked, and I was asking him a few questions and we kind of just unpacked this really deep feeling that he was carrying around with him. When he said that, I was so blown away because he had struggled to really articulate much of anything that he was feeling. I took the oils, which it was kind of funny because, you have your anxiety essential oils, and there was a little bit of sadness, a little bit of grief. And so you have all of your oils that you're going to use. Well, he didn't like most of any of them. And I just remade the blend for him a couple days ago. And it was just this amazing dichotomy of, I think there was like peppermint and vetiver. I don't remember what the two other oils were, but as soon as I blended it, I put one in an inhaler stick and one in a roll-on. He breathed in the aroma before I bottled it. And he looked at me and everything about him started to relax. And he was like, I love that. It smells so amazing. How do I use it? And then when we did our follow-up, I had given him instructions and I said, how did it go? And he said, great. I said, how do you feel? He said, I feel really good. I said, how did you use it? And he looked at me and he tilted his head and said, the way you told me to. I was like, well, of course, because everybody does that. There were not a lot of words, but the little bit of words. And when he got to the place of trusting or being able to, or maybe a little of both, say what was really, really hurting him, it just reaches you on a level that It's amazing.
So you brought up scent sticks and roller balls. I just have to say, I love the simplicity of your website.
Oh, thank you.
I really like the way you have it laid out. And I love that you don't have, and I know this is probably going against everything that every single guru will tell you. I love that you don't have the internet shopping cart. They look and see and they go, that's what I want. And they contact you directly. I love the way you have it set up.
Thank you so much. I've kind of toyed with having like the shopping thing, but it's just, first of all, it's me. So it would be really hard for me to control my inventory. And one of the things that I love about the blending is that I make the largest, I'll say, batch that I make is a 4-ounce bottle. But everything is hand poured, everything is diluted properly. And, and if you reach out to me, I'm going to ask you a few questions so that I can make sure that you get the right thing that you need. Is going big. Like I entertained that. And I talked to somebody about, like making it larger. And I was like, you know what? No, that's not who I am. Like I love having my hands on the oils. And that probably has to go back with like just touching the things and like that gift of touch.
It's just not who you are. And I love that you're being true to yourself, even in that. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Absolutely
Thank
wonderful.
you.
And now that we're talking specifically about essential oils, what's your favorite and why?
I know. I kind of laughed when you had like on the little note, like just one. I was like, oh, one per day.
What's your favorite essential oil today? There we go.
Today, tangerine was in the mix. And I had a little yuzu on my mind. So I didn't use it, but tangerine definitely. I mean, I'm in central Pennsylvania, so it tends to be a little gray. This time of year, a little sunshine in a bottle never hurt anyone.
Beautiful. And how do you use it?
The tangerine I'll put in the diffuser. The oil that I've been using on my body has been pink peppercorn. And you know what I found? The richness of the monoterpenes. It combines beautifully with some CBD.
Yeah, pink peppercorn's amazing.
It is.
So good.
It is like clean and spicy and fresh.
So good. So what are you working on right now that's got you really excited?
Well, I will have to say this podcast has me super excited. I mean, that's the most right now. I think when we talked for the AIA conference, I was just getting a Zyto hand cradle scanner. So I've been really working with that and working with people more with that, measuring biomarkers for food. So I'm super excited about that. And of course, blending, like I could sit and blend and create and be happy.
This is my happy place.
Yes. Those are the things that have me super excited right now. But in this very moment, what we are doing right now has me extremely excited.
How can people find you? Because we did talk about your website, but how can people find you if they're interested in the blends that you're making? Or, who knows, maybe somebody would want to fly in to get their hair done. So talk to the hairapist a little bit.
Exactly. So I have an Instagram page, Amy_Lechner _essentials, which I recently changed. I've been trying to think of a way to integrate all of me. And so all of the things I do are essential. Facebook is Amy Lechner Essential Wellness. My website is acessentialoils.com.
I love that you're blending it all together. I can't wait to see what your Instagram page turns into.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been because I tried to share hair, but then I was like, well, that doesn't really go with AC essential oils. And if somebody doesn't know me, they would be like, why is she sharing hair? All of this has just been an evolutionary process. And it's kind of like getting to know myself more, being comfortable within that, being able to handle, like when you have growth, like being able to handle that next step.
So I know you're involved in AIA, you're involved in NAHA, you've been doing this for a long time. If we were to look 5 to 10 years out, how do you see aromatherapy changing?
I definitely see the bridges being built. I see the walls slowly come tumbling down because at the end of the day, we all love oils. It says in the Bible, a house divided will not stand. And so when we're fighting against each other, we can't unite with each other. Maybe that's just part of like what I want to see. And part of it is how I see some of those barriers kind of breaking down a little bit.
What is one aromatherapy concept that you feel is really misunderstood
Yeah, I definitely think that dilution percentages, carrier oils, using essential oils in an undiluted way, that's when I have people just kind of tilt their head and they're like, what? Instead of getting frustrated, it just takes some compassion to think, okay, well, you don't know what you don't know. I haven't gotten to where I am today by knowing everything. I think we both said we like to learn, so you can't
Yeah.
really learn when you're in the know all the time. Usually, if I'm speaking or educating, I do try to really step into the importance of like, what is the proper dilution? What does that mean? The dilution ratio doesn't mean we're diluting essential oil. It means we're making it safe to carry it into the skin. And I mean, you see it in my blends, like all of my blends have a carrier oil, and the carrier oil is to carry the goodness safely into your skin. Yeah.
So in these last few minutes that we have together, is there anything that you would like to leave the listeners with? Maybe God has inspired you with something.
I have two quotes that I always like to use. The first one, I saw it in my very first book from ACHS, and it was a quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes. And it is, once our mind is stretched to a new dimension, it cannot return to its original shape. And so I've carried that with me in all of my growing because, like once we learn something, you can't unlearn it. This just kind of sits heavily on me every time I speak or every time somebody listens to what I have to say. I always just want to express profound gratitude for your time, because time is something that once we spend it, we never get back. We can make more money, we can buy things, but once time is spent, it's spent. The gratitude that I feel deep down inside of me every time somebody allows me space to share, and the time is just something that is such a gift to me. So your time for me is such a gift. And for all of the listeners or anyone who's taken their own time to listen to this or any other of your podcasts, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you for having me.
Oh, I loved this. You're just amazing.
Thank you. You're
Really.
pretty amazing yourself.
Time is our most valuable currency. Amy hit the nail right on the head. It's not about my interviews. It's not about podcast ratings. It is all about the time that we spend. Time is the only currency that we cannot manufacture. Once it's spent, it is spent, and we cannot get it back. With that said, I want to thank you for spending your time listening to Aromatic Chat. I had so much fun chatting with my friend Amy, and it was hard to say goodbye because she really is just an amazing person, and that bleeds over into her blends and her hair-apy. I used to live in Eastern PA, so I'm a little jealous if you live in Central PA, because you have the chance to get in touch with Amy and maybe even take a seat in her chair to experience her gift of touch. Thank you for spending your time with me today on Aromatic Chat. The podcast is produced by Lemon Balm Coaching, holistic life coaching for the business of your life. You can find and connect with me, your holistic life coach and registered aromatherapist, on the web at Lemon Balm Coaching. I will see you next time with our next episode. Until then, peace, love, and aromatics.